And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with us. Thank y'all so much for tuning into the draft show. Bryan Broaddus's baby. One thing y'all don't get a chance to see, and I would say that this is the harder part about the draft show, right? Is like if me and you just talking, I'm still looking at my camera, I'm talking to you, but when you making your presentation, everybody just give you a real hard look and they examine what you're saying, right? That's kind of the harder part, right? And I've gotten over that. That's cool. But man, there's a proud look on Bryan Broaddus' face when Voch gets into a discussion. I got two big discussions today, Bryan Broaddus.
Two discussions.
Going over my thoughts about Kaiir Williams and Josh Simmons. You know what I'm saying? Though I thought because me and you recapped the last episode of the draft show. I wasn't on it, but we did recap it. And I was very interested to get into a discussion about Kaiir Williams and Josh Simmons. I was going to bring it up at some point, but it happened today, and it wasn't a fight, but it was a loud advocacy. You know what I'm saying? And and the look on Brian's face was like, yeah.
No, I appreciate you saying what you said. I think I'm like you, and I'm not going to speak for you. I like Kaiir Williams.
Yeah.
I don't like him at 12.
Right.
You know, to me at 12, you know, I need a guy that at that size, I need a guy that's going to go out there and dominate the way he should dominate.
Sure.
And that's the thing. He is as good looking of a player as you will see. You cannot draw an edge up any prettier than that player looks. But I need him to play like that.
Sure.
You know, I need him. And you know what? If he plays like what I think he should play, he'd be up there with Carter from Penn State.
Yeah. Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is he capable of playing? Sure. Absolutely. You know, but what I worry about is how long is that going to take? Is that going to take 1 year, 2 years?
Sure.
You know, is he going to get to the point where he's just a good looking player and he's not giving me everything? And I don't know if this guy will ever be a double digit sack guy.
Sure.
I don't know that. You know, and I wish I could say with certainty, like you pick this guy, he's going to be this. I think you pick this guy, Kaiir Williams, and you're going to get a pretty good run defender.
Sure.
I think you're going to be disappointed as a pass rusher initially about that. And you always talk about coaching and all that. I think Georgia's a well-coached team. You know, and hell, there are people around the country that think maybe that Georgia's a better coached team than some NFL coach teams.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? When you talk about Kirby Smart and that group, that's a well-coached football team. I need to see it though.
Sure.
And that's what bothers me about him. It bothers me about Will Johnson from Michigan. And these are the discussions we have. And it got into the discussion with Josh Simmons. And I really appreciate you standing up there and saying, hey, I don't know what tape you're watching. And I think you did it in a respectful way.
Sure.
Josh Simmons is best tackle in this draft.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, and if you don't think that, you're not beating anybody up. It's just hard to watch the tape and watch Campbell and Banks and Mimbo, you know, it's hard to watch. Those guys are all good football players. That Josh Simmons is a different guy. And listen, if you see it different ways, cool. As long as you're doing the work.
Yep.
As long as you're doing the work. That's all that matters to me. But I appreciate you standing up, and I think Simmons and I'm an LSU guy, so I've seen Campbell play every game.
Yeah.
And that my son goes to Texas, so now I watch all the Texas games, and I see Banks and Campbell and these guys, and I'm kind of like going, this kid from Ohio State's better.
Yeah.
Better player. And, to me, I appreciate again that you stood up and said, hey, if you guys might be seeing this guy wrong, but everybody in that room does the work. Sure. They all do the work. But sometimes you have to stand up and say, wait a minute now. You don't slander this guy.
Now, Bryan, something I will say though, right? And we don't have to all agree on the player or whatever.
Don't want to.
Cool.
And I've never been in a draft room where everybody completely agreed on the players. Sure. I've never been in one.
Yep.
Never.
We don't have to, but I do think it's interesting that, like, Bobby did give me an answer. Bobby did say that the teams are kind of half and half. Some people think that but so I'm getting the feel that Simmons is gonna be top. I mean, in the 20s somewhere, in the teens. I can't fathom it film wise, but if you get that dude in the late teens or 20s and he's healthy, that's a massive steal for you. That's a massive steal for you. But do you think? I think if the Cowboys like Simmons enough, I think Bobby would have told us. I think Nick would have told us. Tommy would have told us. Right? So do you think we're at a point to where we can take Simmons off of our radar? Because
well, for the Cowboys, for that night, that first night, and when he gets taken, if he gets taken by Tampa at 19, or I'm just Pittsburgh at 21, whoever.
Yeah.
Whenever he gets taken, you mark the name off, and you talk about what the player is.
Yep.
You talk about, hey, this is what I saw in the player. This is the kind of the physicality, the athletic ability, the power, the understanding, this is what I saw in this guy.
Yeah.
I know our listeners love when you incorporate film and guys we're talking about. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
It's at number 71, man. He just such an ease of movement.
Yep.
It's just boom. I mean, if you could go back, Voch, if you could just go back.
Sure.
Just watch how quick he's out of his stance. Just watch how quick.
Yeah.
Guy never has a chance.
Yeah.
Howard's sitting in the middle of the pocket. He does not have to worry about the backside.
Right.
This is what this guy does.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He just plays on his feet. He plays with balance. He plays with toughness. Look, you can't move him. You can't. It's just Oregon. Oregon's got all these defensive players.
Yep.
Like I said, I really do appreciate you doing what you did. Because if Dallas doesn't pick him, that's fine.
Sure.
That's fine. Our job is to talk about the players that are picked, and we take a lot of pride on our show here. We talk about the Cowboys, but on the draft show, we talk about the Cowboys, but take a lot of pride. I've answered questions about our show. Hey, I'm not even a Cowboy fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Green Bay fan. I'm a Philadelphia Eagle fan. I'm a fan of another team. Thank you for keeping it real, and that's what drives me to talk about Josh Simmons. Because maybe not my team, but your team.
Sure.
Maybe your team.
They'll love
and
him.
If you and you'll love Josh Simmons. If not my team, your team will love Josh Simmons.
Yeah.
If you have a chance to pick him.
Bryan, it's just that in this top 12, you would imagine that whoever is your 12th overall pick will be a slam dunk based on our boards. We just don't know what theirs looks like, Like my board, Will Campbell, Will Johnson, Kelvin Banks is not as high. Michael Williams, I don't know what they think of those guys. I have no clue. Or even Walter Nolan, right? We was kind of hearing that talk. And what I would hope, Bryan, is that, when Tommy was talking to us, Nick, Bobby, okay, you know what? They do like Walter Nolan, but I would hope that they like him as a trade back option, or Mike Hill or Will Johnson, Will Campbell as a trade back option.
I think Voch, where we look at Nolan now, the fact that they re-signed Osa, and then they also signed Solomon Thomas, another 3 technique.
Sure.
I think they're out of the Walter Nolan game. Now, line up all those, there was a time, I'll say this. If you really want to do something, I would sit there and I would, if I was in that room and we were there at 12 and they're talking about, we want to take Michael Williams, or we want to take Will Johnson, or we want to, I swear to you, I would stand up and say, you guys thought about Grant from Michigan yet?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I
just deviate, just take the wheel and go somewhere else.
I would completely, if you don't want Simmons and you don't want Ibuka and you don't want, I will take the wheel and say, has anybody thought about where do we got Grant? What do we know about Grant?
Sure.
Because to me, I would argue for a compromise candidate.
Sure.
Is what I would do.
Yeah.
I would say, well, they'd say, well, and then I would start arguing why.
I would take Jahad Campbell right now over Michael Weeks.
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
There you go. I said Grant, you said Campbell.
Sure.
I would argue, I would say, and this is before the draft. This is, when we're kind of the 3-4 days before, we're trying to kind of figure out who we're gonna lock this thing in, who's there. If somebody starts talking about Will Johnson and if Will Johnson doesn't run, and folks, I'm sorry, I sound like a broken record here.
That's important.
That's important for me, for Will Johnson to be able to run.
Yeah.
And if he gets a good time, okay, cool, we're good. I feel better about the situation. But I would sit there and I would argue for Campbell. I would throw, well, hey, we've got, we really like Will, and I'd go, anybody thought about Campbell? What's our linebacker situation looking like right now? Yeah, we signed a couple of guys, but anybody thought, should we revisit Campbell? Yeah. Should we? Anybody interested in revisiting that? Yeah. That's the kind of stirred up thing, and you watch, it'll happen when we get into April and start talking about names like we are. I'll throw a name in there like, well, wait, why are we not talking about this guy?
Sure.
But I think, man, my fear right now, and they don't give a rat's ass what you and I think. They don't care. They don't care. My personal fear is I've watched these players and I kind of have an idea who I think can really play. And nothing against Will Johnson and nothing against our guy from Georgia there.
Yeah.
Nothing against him, nothing against him. And but I don't have them like I have other players above them. Yeah. I don't have, and if one of those players above them, and we're going to get in an argument about Barron from Texas, we're going to get in an argument about that because I'm going to go, if we don't have a time on Will Johnson, I'm going to go.
I'm taking Barron.
Why? What's the problem with Barron? Somebody, and Will's going to say, Bryan, shut the F up. You know that he doesn't have length. He doesn't, I'm going to get somebody, I'm going to piss somebody off because I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up like, if I see it where it's going like, man, there's too many guys on that board that we're talking about that aren't as good as the players that, that are there.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. I would, if I ran and I did for 1 year, I ran a draft. Me, if you watch the NFL Network, Mark Ross, you'll see him on. He was with the Giants. Mark was a young scout starting with us in Philly. First year out of the blocks, 1998. Him, Dan Shonka, who founded Our Lads, was on our staff. Jake Hollum, who's no longer with us. It was just us four. But we had discussions like that. We had discussions where it was three guys would be, well, this. And then there would always be one guy that would say, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it got to the point where it was, what about this turned into an hour-and-a-half conversation.
Yeah.
But what it did was it solidified our board. You knew where everybody was standing now. You knew where You knew this, the guys who are for Michael Williams, the guys that are for Will Johnson, the guys that are for Josh Simmons. You know that now. And that's, I think today you created a little of that created a little of that. What are you saying here? Sure. What are you saying here?
If anything, Brian, I would love for people to hit me up on Twitter and be like, you know what, Voch, I went back and I watched Josh Simmons, man.
Yeah.
I see what you're talking about. They ain't got to say Voch, you right. But Voch, I went back to watch Josh Simmons. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I want, and it's a selfish, it's this time of year, you do have to think about the team.
Yeah.
You do. You could get really mad sitting in those war rooms.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've done it. I watched Sean Payton one time sit there when we were working on the quarterback, Drew Henson.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Garrett, Jason's dad, he said that Drew Henson was going to be the next Troy Aikman. And you could see Jerry, those glasses at the end of his nose, and he looked over at Jim Garrett, and Sean Payton leaned over to me and goes, "We're effed.
Yeah,
we're effed now." And so, but Sean stood up and argued against it. He stood up and argued against it. Yeah. Sean knew he wasn't going to win, but he stood up for what he thought was right. Sure. This guy can't play. And you have all these people in the room saying, "Oh, he can play. And I was sitting next to Sean, and I go, "Man, you did the best you could." Yeah, you did the best you could. It's noted that you were the one guy that stood up against this.
Yeah,
but you have to sometimes have that. You have to have that, because when you see it going in a direction where you're not too happy about it,
sure,
you got to be able to stand up and say, "Hey, wait a minute. Now let's think about something else here." But then they'll say, "Well, no, you shut up, Brian, and we're going to do it." But you did your part in that room. And I think I'm doing that right now. I don't hate Michael Williams. Yeah. I don't hate Will Johnson. I just have other guys better.
Sure.
I have other guys better. And that's why I'm fighting right now. That is why I'm fighting this.
Yeah. Fair enough, Brian.
But you did a great job. You did a great job today. You really did. Thank you.
Hey, man, just trying to show up on your draft show, baby, and do right by, Man, Brian, the Cowboys, man, just looking at the signings and all that, you said something earlier that just, well, they did this, so they may not be looking at 3-tech, right?
Yeah, sure.
Do you think the lack of activity at wide receiver means that we could be looking at wide receiver in the first round? Because I remember Jerry came out with his quote, and he was like, "Yeah, we don't have a lot of voids on the roster if." That old mess. He said, "Well, if a couple people we looking at in free agency, and a couple people we looking at in trades, and a couple people we looking at in rehab, and if the couple of people that we looking at in draft go right, then we ain't really got as many voids as y'all think." You remember Jerry said that? Do you think the lack of activity at wide receiver means that they have enough guys on their wide receiver stack that they feel like they can walk into 12th overall and one of them will be there?
Yeah, I think I think that's a possibility. On 105.3 The Fan today, I brought up, if you look at the free agents that are currently on the street, and you look at the wide receivers, there's some dudes that were some players. There's some dudes that were, the Keenan Allens of the world. You've got you got a guy from the Rams now out there, Seattle's.
Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks if you want to, Deontay Jackson, Tyler Lockett, Robert Woods. Yeah.
There you go. I asked my guys, why do you think this is it? Why do you think all these guys are on the street right now? Mm-hmm. And we were kind of kicking around, maybe it's the draft. Maybe, to be honest, Voch, I think you and I could tell people with certainty this wide receiver class is good, but it might not be what we've seen in the past.
Of course not. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to me, where everybody loaded up on their linebackers. They got their linebackers done really quick.
Yeah.
I think maybe some teams are looking at these these draftable wide receivers, and they're kind of putting them in the same respect as receiver groups from the past.
Yeah.
And that's why you had this. There's some talented, but maybe teams are waiting for the price to go down on Cooper Kupp and Amari Cooper and guys like that. But I wouldn't be opposed to going and picking one of these guys off.
Sure.
I really, if you got down to where the money worked for you, and these guys are trying to get a gig, and maybe after the draft is where these wide receivers are going to start to sign.
Yeah. Maybe
that's, but man, I would surely try and get in there and pick one of these guys off and then still draft. And these signings and these free agent signings have done nothing for me as far as now. We talked about Walter Nolan, the 3 technique from Mississippi.
Correct.
That one might not. You still might take a 3 technique, but it's not going to be at 12.
That was more so about Osa getting his money and then Solomon coming in. So we have a pretty good feel that it's probably not going to be 3 tech early. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But these wide receivers, there's a good group of wide receivers. I mean, veteran wide receivers.
It'll be smart to double down, Brian. You was about to say that. I think it's smart to double down.
Yeah, I think so to me, because if you could find a way to get, a big body guy. Now there's big, but also, like I say, I think teams might be believing that this wide receiving group is like we've seen in the past. And I don't think that's the case.
I think you got 2 good rounds of guys that I feel great about. And I think you got some complimentary dudes in that 3rd round. So my first 7 guys, and that'll cover my first and second rounds: McMillan, Burden, Golden, Igbuka, Besh, Ayamenor, and Royals. That's my first 2 rounds. I think besides that, I think some of those guys need help. Savion is going to need help around him. Tez, Noel, Harris, those guys need help around him. You know what I'm saying? I don't think this is that year where you get to the 3rd round and there's still a wide receiver you love there. I don't think this is that year.
You and I have been very adamant about this. There'll be a running back there. There might be an edge there, and there might be the start of the linebacker group. When Campbell and Walker they go off,
that second tier guys.
That here come the linebackers. So
corner.
But and corner too.
Sure.
And corner too. Yeah. So I would not be opposed to whatever that group I just gave you, the names you just read off. I'd be calling some agents and like, where's your price at right now?
Yeah.
Where's your price?
Yeah.
What's your price? And if it's looking for 12, looking for 13, looking for 10.
Yeah.
No. Would you play for 4, 5? I mean, Dallas is famous for doing that, paying you $4 or $5 million, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Brian, man, y'all love this exercise, man. You and the Twitter on the 20 people and the people that call your show the love of the star, Dean Julia Mailbag Boy. Y'all love to y'all love to give me the pick this group, pick that group questions.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it to you because I think it's a terrible exercise to try to remember them names and you fumble around. But, Brian, something I noticed about those exercises, right?
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, what's the likelihood of this happening and how would you feel if it happened? Brian, let me pull up Tankathon so I can be exact. Brian, what if we get to April? Scroll down Dallas Cowboys. What if we don't pick a running back till pick 149? What's the likelihood of that happening, and how would you feel about it? That's your first 5th round pick.
149. All right. I wouldn't feel great. I wouldn't feel great. I would feel okay, put it this way. Let me amend what I just said. I said I wouldn't feel great. when I look at my names that are potentially there in the 5th round, I would feel okay.
Yeah.
I would feel okay. Because I've got Hunter from Auburn in the 5th. I've got our Rutgers running back there at that time in the 5th. I always mess up his name.
Manungai.
What's his name? Manungai?
Manungai.
Is that you say it?
Yes, sir.
Manungai. Okay, I'll learn that. Manungai. I got Hunter, Manungai. But I got your guy too in there, Krosky Merritt. And I know you have Krosky Merritt higher.
Yeah.
From New Mexico.
Yep.
Well, he's at Arizona.
New Mexico. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Who I wonder of my 4th rounders, who could be in that group? Because I feel like my 4th rounders, as we've talked about today, some of those guys might end up in the 3rd. James from Oregon.
Yeah.
Neal from Kansas. Maybe not Neal because of the speed.
Yeah.
Giddings, I think you're going to probably be right about him being more of a 3rd round guy. Brooks might be there from Texas Tech. People are falling in love with Martinez from Miami. Tootin from Virginia Tech, I got in that list. So if you told me that I could have like, say, Neal, Hunter, Manungai, and Krosky Merritt, hyphenated name.
Yeah.
If that was my 5th round, I'd feel pretty good. I mean, I would feel good. I'd love for them to go and grab one of my 2nd or 3rd round guys.
Sure.
But if you had to wait till that top of that 5th round, I might be okay. I might be okay if the names are there that I mentioned. I don't. Your 5th round is more for somebody else.
Yeah.
You've kind of got that as an other. You've listed those as others. But those names don't scare me.
Man, once you get to the 4th round, those are running backs that you would like to pair with another running back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I feel great about Javonte Williams in that way to just pair with another guy. I honestly want them to get it over with. I want Dallas to get running back over with early in round 1 or 2. And I know we need linebacker, corner. I would love to have offensive line, receiver. I really want them to get running back over with either Genty or Hampton, Johnson, Harvey Henderson.
Yeah.
I would love them to get it over with early. And if not, that 3rd round cutting it close with Sampson, Judkins, Blue, Smith, and Giddens. By the time I get to the 4th, which I think this is where a lot of, like these guys could be in the 5th round, man, I would draft the guy there, but damn, dog, I would feel much better if it was like Caleb Johnson. I'd throw a party if it was Caleb Johnson, Brian.
Yeah. I'm the same way. The more that you're diving into this, and we're starting to see the scouts, the media scouts are starting to talk to the real scouts, and we're starting to see mock drafts where Genty's not there and he's running back. Daniel Jeremiah's first mock draft opened my eyes when everybody, all the top running backs except Johnson was gone before, we're all gone. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, could this happen? Could this really happen? So I'm with you, man. If you could knock this thing out, I'm getting the feeling that Genty's not going to be there.
Yeah, probably not.
Hey, I'm getting the feeling because the things that I talk about with you every day when we do our show is ability, health,
lack of warts,
and off the field.
Yeah, off the field. Yep.
Yeah, off the field, lack of warts. You're right. Ability, health, lack of warts. That kid does not have. I mean, in a draft,
sure,
that could be crazy.
Yep.
That you don't have a really good feeling for offensive tackles and receivers and corners and linebackers. This could be one of those drafts where all of a sudden that's the blinking light. Yeah. That's the blinking light right there. Yeah. That like somebody goes, Well, that player right there is the guy with the most ability. He's the cleanest, and he's the healthiest.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why he probably will be gone. Where I think early in life, we all were just kind of like early in the draft process,
Sure.
we were all kind of going, Genty, you'd never take a back. Don't take a back. No first round backs. Now everybody's like, shit.
Right.
Watch the tape. Watch the tape. Take this guy. You know?
Like if you're one of those Cowboy fans that loved Bijan Robinson, this is a guy that's better than Bijan Robinson, man.
Yeah. I said the same thing. Yeah. And I got crushed. And Bijan Robinson, if you go back and look at my stack, I had him in the top 4 on my stack. And I love Bijan Robinson. I really, really do. And but he could be gone. And I agree with you. I'd like to knock this thing out. I'd like to knock this thing out in the first 2 rounds if I can get it done.
Yeah, for sure.
I really could. I wish I could.
Yeah. Man, Bryan, one last thing before we get up out of here, man. Could you just give us a breakdown on our corner that we traded for, Kaiir Elam? Just tell me what you think about it.
Yeah, you know, if you go back and this is the great thing about kind of keeping your notes. And I can go all the way back to the 2022 draft when Elam was picked.
Florida.
Yeah. At the time, 6'2", 191 pounds. And I'm just saying this because I want to remind people what I saw of this player coming out. And then I want to compare him to what I saw with the Buffalo Bills. First line out of the book is big time press man corner.
Physical.
Really good job. Yeah, really press man corner. Does a really good job when he get up tight and get his hands on the receiver. Have seen him play both on the left side, the right side. He's always up for the battle. Stays in position on routes with his speed, his quickness, ability to fight with his hands. He's not going to let the receiver just run away from him. He did a really nice job of battling those tough Alabama wide receivers. I like his ability to carry routes across the field. Impressed how he's able to stay with them. I've seen him gamble on routes, but he wasn't harmed on the play. The foot movement, the balance. He'll fight as long as the play is still alive. When off coverage, I've seen him drive on the ball in order to knock it away. Shown the ability to play through the receiver in order to get to the ball on the ground. Knows how to use his off hand in order to make plays. Okay. That's what I saw of him coming out of Florida. I had him on the second round on my board is where I had him myself. Yeah. Okay. What you see with Buffalo tape, he doesn't play off coverages very well at all. That's a problem. Yeah. His man coverage stuff is still pretty good. His ability to stay up and get up on top of somebody and kind of jam them and then run with them and go and work up the field was pretty good. People were telling me about the Kansas City game. I've watched majority of his games. I did not see the Kansas City game. They said that was a little rough. They said the Buffalo secondary as a whole weren't very good that day. I think this guy can play press man still, like he did in college. I don't think I want him playing off coverage very much because there was a time when Jacksonville, and I think it was Christian Kirk, he was playing off coverage and Kirk just ran up on top of him and then went around him and our guy was left flat-footed. He had to try and collision, but he was already like 12 yards downfield collision, to try and keep from being a home run ball. They ran a screen. He came up, made the tackle in the flat, ball spilled the outside, came up and made a tackle. I think this guy, if you're going to play press, that's him. Yeah. If you're going to play him in zone, you made a mistake. Yeah. That's how I feel about this player.
You feel like he comes in and he's better than Kalen Carson day one? Izzy just got signed. Is he better than Izzy day one?
Yeah. See, the thing about it is with Izzy, you could play him in a couple of different spots, with the slot and stuff. I think it's amazing that he played a playoff game against Tampa and Dan Quinn just threw him in the nickel. And the next thing you know, he's covering dudes.
Sure.
But Carson, I am a Carson homer and I'm hopeful for the best with Carson. He just needs to have a really good offseason. He needs to get stronger. He needs to work on his craft. He needs to work on his confidence. Number one, his confidence got crushed last year. So you need to work on those things. With our guy, the trade that we just made, like I say, there's things with Carson that I think Carson could play up and back. I think he's a little bit better of a zone player. And I'm interested to see what Eberflus is going to do. They've got to get Carson playing better. And I think right now, that we have to be kind of, sitting there thinking about, where's Elam going to fit in this thing? And maybe him and Carson kind of the same guy. I think Elam probably a little bit better man cover guy.
Sure.
And then Carson a little bit better on both, more complete that way.
Yeah. We'll see, Bryan. We have a long free agency because we're Cowboy people. So free agency lasts a long time for the Cowboys. But I think by the time we get to the draft, I think we'll have our answers, man. Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed. Come on, man. We know y'all enjoyed. Listen, come on, man. It's doing all right, man. We know what the business is. But go tap into the draft show today, also, man. I was on it. Always watch it. Because I really support my cohorts. You know what I'm saying? Because they my guys and my colleagues. But I was on it, so be sure y'all go guys over there and watch.
No. Like we go back and said, you made some excellent points. You brought up some really good discussions. And I can say there was some crazy things said on the show today. I'm glad you stood up and said, I am not here for this craziness. I'm not here for this.
For the nonsense. Yeah.
You as the younger member of the draft show jumped up before the older seasoned veteran guy had to grab Nick Harris by the back of the shirt and drag him out of there.
It is what it is. Shouts out to Nick Harris though, man. Me and Nick Harris
Nick.
We had a great talk in the garage there. So shouts out to him. Me and him gonna get some lunch or something.
Oh, did you try and take a swing at him in the garage?
Well, he would never take a swing at me. But nah, man, we just chopped it up a little bit. Hey, Voch, where you from? All this kind of stuff. Hey, let's get some lunch, man. All right, cool, bet. And
Nick's a good dude. No, I love working with Nick. Yeah. And like I say, him and Tommy, they do a great job of working on these players. Yeah. The draft, the coverage that we have. I know we got a draft 101 coming up here in April. Yeah. The week before the draft, where if you're in town or if you want to fly in and see the great Voch Lombardi, he'll be glad to meet you. But yeah, we're going to have it at our studio there over on Fitzhugh. So we're going to have everybody draft 101 like we've done in the past. Voch and all of us will be available for questions and conversations and stuff. So kind of get that on your calendar. It'll be the Thursday before the actual draft, the week before. So it should be a lot of fun. So
that'll be fun.
Yeah.
But we'll be giving y'all updates and y'all get those updates.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That was just a Sure. If you're in town and you're interested in the draft. And by the way, real quick, Voch, there were guys like last year. I had a guy come up to me. We did it at the Star. And I had a guy come up to me after the draft. He goes, listen, I wanted to ask you a question. I said, okay, well, why didn't he? Goes, well, I'm a Detroit Lion fan. And I had a question about the Lions. I'm like, sure, man, what do you got? So we were chopping it up about the Lions player and who they were going to pick and stuff like that. So
that'll be fun, man. That'll be fun.
It's fun.
Talking to the people is always fun. Yeah.
It's always fun. Always fun.
Yeah. Get those updates at VOCHLONBARDI or at BRYN Broaddus. And man, this is something I've been waiting on since I was Pizza Hut guy to do my draft 101. You know what I'm saying? I've been waiting on that one.
I tell you what, man, it's a lot of fun to sit there with a mic because the folks ask you some really cool questions. It's kind of like Twitter on the 20 with a live audience is what it is. So should be a lot of fun.
We'll do it. Thursday before the draft, and y'all know we're getting busy on day 1, 2, and 3, so y'all be sure you tap in. Y'all hold it down until next time. We love y'all to peace. We watching players tomorrow. Well, we talking about players. Y'all better watch these players tonight. We talking about Elijah Huzzy, the cornerback from North Carolina, Trevor Etienne, running back Georgia, Benjamin Yurosek, the tight end from Georgia, and Tyler Batty, the edge that plays just like the Boise kid from BYU. All right, love y'all, man. Y'all hold it down until next time. Crown.